Okay, so I think it's preparing for live stream now in a minute, and then we'll go live, and then hopefully I should be able to close the other window and right, I think we're live now, guys.
Brilliant.
So 10:29, bang on the button, hopefully. And I'm just going to check we are live or not. Can you see if you're live? Yeah, I think it says live, right? Perfect.
It says that on my Zoom, yeah.
Perfect. I'm just waiting to go live on my other channel so we can start seeing whoever's joining in. So guys, whoever's joining in now, hopefully we'll have a few people joining in. Very welcome to our series of YouTube sort of live sessions with David Bailey here. We're doing 4 sessions in December 2020. And what we're going to be sharing with you is a very unique information and insights into the 4 deals that David Bailey has completed, or 4 projects, shall I say, that he's completed, right from reaching out directly to vendors to actually getting planning, securing it firstly, obviously, getting planning, building it out, and then either selling it or renting it. So that's what we're planning to go through in our session today. So firstly, a big welcome, David.
Thanks, Manny.
And what I was going to say was you are the co-host, so you can share your screen. So I think let's kick off with the first deal that you're going to be sharing about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so screen's all yours.
Here we go. Right. There we go. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see that.
Picture of a house with a big hedge in front.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Perfect. Where do you want me to start?
Perfect.
Shall I just kick off, Manny? Do you want me to
Kick off, David. It's all yours. I was just looking at, like, because I can then see whoever's joining in. So we have no one else joining in. So let's just wait maybe for a minute or so, and then we can kick off.
Sure.
Actually, you know what? Let's go for it, because people can actually view back and look at it afterwards from the beginning. So yeah, screen's all yours.
Brilliant. So yeah, this is actually the first off-market deal I actually completed on. Way back, and I think probably wrote the first letter sort of 2014, 2015, something like that. And I did a lot of trawling around, and actually literally just walked the streets sometimes in my hometown, and wrote to a lot of properties that I thought had potential based on a couple of projects that I'd already done that I perhaps bought on the open market that had worked for me. And I thought, well, if I can find more of these, fantastic. So yeah, I wrote to this one, and it was difficult to know exactly what the potential was initially, but I kind of, my hunch was there was something there. It was a big house, big detached house, but you can just see the apex of the sort of the gable there. It actually had a big annex that had been built to the side.
Yeah.
And if I go to the plan, you can see it's this house here. It's on a corner, so you've got multiple sort of access points for vehicles. And it did have this big sort of lump of extension here. And say, it's very difficult to know exactly what I could do with it at first, but I sent the letter, and owner got in touch and said, actually, they were running a business out of the property. It had been their home, and they ran a sort of a building firm out of it. Yep. They now sort of moved out of it, so they still used it as an office and a sort of almost sort of storage. But they were looking to sort of wind that down and move to a fully commercial premises. So the timing was right, and the circumstances were right, because there was a couple of things that see going on with the vendor. He had a very busy life running the business. They'd already moved. I think he kind of emotionally sort of checked out of the house a little bit. Then there's a couple of other things as well, which were kind of key to it. First was it was a little bit scruffy. It needed a little bit of work here and there. and which he didn't really want to do. He didn't have the time to do. So someone who sort of comes in and says, right, I want to develop this, obviously not afraid of a bit of work, that worked well for him.
And the key thing here, as you're saying, right, is reaching out to vendors, because we don't actually know what their position is or what their situation is. And some of them obviously are in the right timing for them. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I did a bit of lettering last week. And lo and behold, I think it was just 8 letters, and we got a response within 48 hours. So I've got a meeting with the vendor and his neighbor. They both want to sell their 2 properties.
Yeah.
One of them has the property on the open market. The other one doesn't, but he's not happy with the offers he's getting. So he wants a slightly higher price. Obviously, I'm not trying to work out before I go and see them next week what can be, obviously subject to planning, what we can get on the plot. It's a very large plot, about 1,800 square meters. We think we could get probably 4 to 5 houses. Once I know a draft plan, then I can go and negotiate with them next week.
Yeah, fantastic. But that's it. The easy bit is spotting the plot. The difficult bit is following through and actually getting those letters out of the door, and then negotiating with vendors, etc., etc. So but until you've got those letters out the door, nothing's going to happen. So you've got to
first thing you need to do, right? Absolutely. So go for it. Yeah.
Brilliant. So so I mentioned sort of 2 circumstances of the vendor. The first was it was a little bit scruffy and needed a bit of work. The second was the annex had actually been converted. It had a first floor which didn't have either planning or building regs. So kind of sort of got on and built it, really. And I don't think he'd ever, no one had ever said anything. But really, if you were going to sell through the conventional open market, that would have come up on searches, and most buyers would probably have had a bit of an issue with that. So we were able to sort of, because we were saying, right, we'd like to buy the subject to planning, we'd like to buy it subject to planning to convert this annex area into a separate dwelling. It gave us the opportunity to kind of normalise his planning and get planning as part of that and make that problem go away.
So just a quick question on that then. The subject to planning, was it, so you exchange contracts?
Yeah, that's right.
And it was with, how much did you put 10% down, or was it £1?
We on this one, we put 5% down, actually. Generally it's £1, but on this one it was 5%. And
would you mind telling me sort of roughly how much you paid for it, if you don't mind?
Yeah, so the total site was 820,000.
Fine. And do you think that was roughly the market price, or you had to pay slightly more for the privilege of doing the subject to?
It was probably sort of perhaps 5% over what it would have got on the open market, although it's quite difficult to value those bigger houses, to be fair. But obviously what I worked back from was a residual valuation of what it would be worth at the end, and therefore it was worth that amount to me.
So thanks for that. So this residual value that you talked about, and I understand that, but for the listeners and the viewers, are we going to be covering that on the course on the 8th of January?
Yeah, by all means, yeah, no, exactly. I mean, very, very basically, residual valuation is starting with your GDV, what you could sell those units on for, and then subtracting all your costs, and that brings you back to your residual valuation. It's as simple as that for anyone who.
And David, the key thing here is, even if you end up paying, like you said, a little bit more, maybe 1 or 2%, you never know exactly what the market price is, but here or there, it's still worth it because it gives you the flexibility to actually, and the confidence, right? So my question to you would be, because I've got this meeting next week as well, what would you say to them? Because he's already asked me, the vendor, well, what if you don't get planning?
Mm-hmm. Well, you do have to flag that up with the vendor and say, yes, if we don't get planning, then you've effectively got something attached to your site that says someone was unsuccessful in getting planning for the site. And then in my letters, I always explain that, because it is a potential downside. But you're the person who's motivated to get that planning, so you're going to work the hardest to get it. And really, there's not a lot of risk apart from that to them as a vendor. If you do fail to get planning for whatever reason, and you find yourself back in sort of square one, well, they're just selling a normal house again. So but they've also explored the potential of getting planning and getting potentially a slice of that uplift as part of that process. So there's not really a massive downside to them. All they're
Would
really
you still buy it? For example, like this one, I'm just hypothetically, I'm just saying, just sort of trying to understand what your backup plan would be or plan B would be. Would you still buy it?
No, not if we didn't get planning. No.
So
But
conditional, because it's a conditional contract, you can then, would you lose your 5% in this case? I know normally you pay £1, but in this case, would you lose 5%?
no, that 5% goes and sits in escrow with your solicitor.
Solicitors.
You know, it shows your commitment to the deal. But no, obviously the contract is drafted such that if you don't get planning, that money comes back to you.
Great. Well, listen, guys, we're just sort of giving you a bit of flavor of what's going to be covered on the course. Obviously, David is the main knowledge bank with us, but I'm going to be obviously just asking him the right questions so that, you know, sometimes, you know, if people feel they don't want to ask the silly questions, but I don't think there is anything such as a silly question. Therefore, it's good to get that information out of the experts like David, because for him, it's like just, you know, a matter of fact and autopilot mode. But people who are not doing this are just starting to do this. A lot of this has to be sort of, you know, thought through in a step-by-step basis. Would you agree, David?
Absolutely, yes. Now you've got to stop me in every now and again and, you know, tell me if I've missed something or, you know, if you need more detail on anything.
Just clarity, isn't it? Because I'm just trying to think it from the other person's point of view rather than you just know it and you're just got to, you know, telling us how to do it. But yeah, sorry to stop you there. But yeah, feel free to carry on.
I think the other point on that is it's great to actually be in that environment with other people asking questions, because sometimes the question someone asks is the question you wanted to ask, is just you didn't know it until someone else asked it. So
actually, I'm going to stop it there. We've just got a few people, so I'll just welcome them. Hi,
okay.
Anshul, and here's a question actually. So do you mind if we address that before we move on?
Please do, yeah.
So Anshul is saying, David, did you specify the exact scheme you were going for in the exchange contract, i.e., did the contract say, exclamation mark, we will buy the building subject to planning permission being granted for 5 flats or whatever?
Yeah, it's a good question. So generally, a vendor will want some specificity, depending on how much, you know, their solicitor kind of leans on them. But then often solicitors will advise, particularly, you know, it might be that the vendor, you know, is not particularly fast, but the solicitor will sort of say, yes, you know, you need to kind of get some detail on that. So yeah, funny enough, we actually got permission to turn this into a house initially. So this would be one house, and that was what, you know, our contract was based on, just conversion to a separate dwelling. I thought that was going to be more straightforward to get through planning. So that's what we did first time round. And then after that planning was granted, we improved that, and actually I kind of looked at all the detail, a lot more detail, and thought actually this is going to work better as 2 small houses. So we then went back in for planning for 2 small houses.
So just to confirm that, then you left the large house as is.
Yep.
Your plan was subject to 1 dwelling house for the annex.
Yeah.
So up another floor basically. You then completed on it because you got it. And then after you completed it, you then went back and asked for 2 dwellings out of the annex rather than just the 1 which you got. So that's
exactly.
You got the principle of development effectively.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's often a key strategy with the planners is to get something agreed and then improve on it. Yeah, because sometimes sort of going for the full end scheme is sort of too much in one go.
So Anshul's got another follow-up question, David. So if you get planning for, let's say, 4 flats, for example, you're not obliged to buy the building. So using his example of the 5 flats, basically. So let's planning for 4.
So
because it's your discretion, I guess. You could still buy it if you wanted to, but are you actually obliged as per the contract to buy it?
The way we word the contracts is typically satisfactory planning. So it does give you an element of discretion over what you consider to be satisfactory planning. And generally the way we describe this to vendors is, you know, if the council make very, very onerous conditions, they make an outrageous sort of Section 106 demand or something like that, that would count as an unsatisfactory planning. But that use of the word satisfactory in the contract does give you some flexibility there to say whether, you know, that planning actually fully works for you or not.
No, yeah. So I think so. The answer to that question is that you could decline and not proceed with it, right?
Yeah, if you didn't get the exact planning you wanted that you
Yeah.
described in the contract, yeah. But obviously, you go into these things committing. Okay, this one we exchange on 5%. Normally, you'd exchange on a pound.
Oh,
But
of
you're
course.
getting a lot of fees in terms of architects' fees and your own time and the planning fees. So you don't want to go into these wanting to back out. You do need to go into them as if you're going to
Make it work.
buy it. Yeah, yeah.
So I think the answer is you can back out, but then you would have to weigh out your costs that you've already spent out, and the cost of losing that money,
Yeah.
versus doing the 4 flats in this particular example.
Yeah, I'm thinking, an option agreement is if you were for some reason weren't 100% on something, an option agreement would be a better idea there rather than exchange subject to
Yes.
planning.
So exchanges, I think I'd say, as I think I agree. In particular instances, because you're exchanging, it's more of a commitment, in my view. I've done something similar, but we can cover that another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the answer is to your question, Anshul, is yes, you can. You can. You're not obliged. So yeah, feel free to carry on, David.
Yeah, brilliant. So if I just move on to show you a little bit of detail. So this was the annex to the side there. It was a big garage at the front, big double deck garage at the front, and sort of storage at the back. And then, as I say, they had actually converted the upper part into sort of accommodation, but the head height didn't really work, and it wasn't.
The dormer windows were already existing, were they?
No, that's what we got planning for.
That's what you created. Yeah.
And in fact, a lot of the structure had to be renewed because the structure really wasn't up to the job in terms of sort of creating proper residential dwellings. So
you knocked it down?
We didn't knock it down. We just had to replace a lot of the timber work.
Yeah.
So we put the dormers in, created the wall down the middle to split the 2 units, bricked up the garages, insulated, etc. And created the 2 units. They basically got a large kitchen diner downstairs and a bedroom and a bathroom upstairs.
So 1 bedroom houses?
That's right, yeah, 1 bed houses.
So maisonettes, I suppose.
Yeah. They kind of really sort of they're marketed as flats. Really, they sort of compete with flats.
And did you have any amenity spaces on this?
Yeah, so one of them has got a little garden space at the back. The other one that you can see closer to here, it's got space for 2 parking spaces, which is actually a big selling point in this part of town. But you probably wouldn't want to, because it's right on the corner. You'd not actually sort of sit out there and have a barbecue probably. But this one here, which is access, just I don't know if you can see my.
Oh, there's an access there. Yes, we can see that. So hopefully, maybe you have 1 or 2 other photos. We can have a better look at it. Yeah.
So we've got an access at the back, the side there, 2 parking spaces, and a bit of garden around the back.
Fantastic, brilliant.
So so that was the project.
And can we go through, if you don't mind, some number? Okay, yeah, go for it.
This is sorry. This probably explains the layout for better. Obviously, kitchen diner downstairs, parking here that we were talking about, here, and a bit of amenity space, and then a bedroom and a bathroom upstairs.
So where's what we were seeing? Where's that bit there? The 2 side by side, weren't they? 2.
Yeah, we were standing here in the last photo. I'll
right.
Just back to the last photo. So if you look at that sort of gable there, if you like, that's what we're looking at there.
Right. Okay.
And,
I got you.
So I'll just go forward. So that's what they ended up being like. Now we're looking from the other side here. Now we're looking at the unit with a little bit of garden at the back there and the parking spaces. Here you've got parking spaces here for this unit. And then the main house itself sort of still retains that drive there.
So David, what did you do with the existing large detached house then? What did you do with that?
It's a really good question, actually. It's my house. So
is it?
It's where I live, yeah.
Oh wow, so you moved there?
Yeah, and that's it. That's it finished. We put these trees in along the front.
Oh, fantastic. So not only did you actually make money out of it, but you also moved there, and this is your sort of your home now.
Yeah, it was a great project. It was probably the most profitable project I've done
to date.
And
bear in mind, you did this in 2014-15 as one of your first direct-to-vendor projects. I think it's impressive. And if you don't mind, could we talk a little bit about the numbers?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm just going to stop sharing screens now
Yeah,
because
you don't need the screen anymore. Absolutely.
my numbers. Yeah, yes. Obviously, we bought for 820, and then say you've asked a really good question there. Actually, what did you do with the existing house? So in theory, we could have split everything up and sold it on at completion. As it is, we didn't. So I had to kind of figure out effectively what did that land cost me. It's a bit difficult to say really, but for accounting purposes, we've normally said that bit of land that the annex was sitting on was valued at £60,000. So that was 60k. The total development costs were 145,000.
Okay, so just over 200.
Yeah, so that put us at 205. So sounds like a lot because all the structure was already there, but there was a fair bit to do. To be honest, I talked about having to redo some of the timber work, the structure. A lot of insulation had to go in, and then they had to be fully fitted out, and then obviously all the hard landscaping that had to be done.
Total costs.
Yeah, so total cost 205, and then the 2 units actually valued up at 400,000. So 200,000 per unit.
So you pulled out all your money and you had more cash.
Yeah, no, it's one of those projects. If I could do those, every day of the week, I would.
But look, they're around, right? I mean, it's not to say that you can't find these again because you're doing your lettering, and as and when you find the right vendor, the process, and it'll you can repeat it. It's a rinse and repeat process, to be fair.
It is, yeah. Everyone's slightly different, but the process is the same. And
exactly, the process is the same.
Yeah. I learned so much on this deal, going through this one, going through the process, and then, as you say, it's just been a question of kind of using that knowledge going forward to sort of secure different deals going.
So when you were saying they got valued at 400, did you then sell them? Did you refinance them? What did you do then, if you don't mind me asking?
So those were both refinanced and held long term for rental. Yeah.
Okay, so when they were valued at 400, you probably got 300 back from the bank, or?
Yeah, a smidgen less, just because.
You went lower, lower loan to value.
I think we're about 67% loan to value. So yeah, we managed to pull cash out of it and reduce the leverage a little bit below that sort of 75% level.
And you probably paid the rest of it towards your house anyway, right? Because you bought the other big house there.
Yeah. Allowed us to pay the mortgage down a little bit.
Exactly. Well, I think you know what, these sort of deals can come around. I don't think they'll come around through agents. They might come around through agents, but again, it's a chance, right? And how many
chance? Yeah,
you compete with to get that deal, because you're going to have to end up bidding against other people if they can see the angle as well, right?
Yeah.
These sort of deals, I think, are best done on a direct-to-vendor basis. So guys, just to quickly let you know then, hope you found that information useful. This is our first of 4 sessions we're running in December in advance of our site finding masterclass on Friday, the 8th of January. It is an exclusive one-off course, and we may or may not run it again. We don't know yet, but the chances are we might not, depending on timings and everything else. Because I know, David, you've got a huge commitment coming up. I've got a big project coming up as well.
Yeah.
We're going to be super busy. So whether we repeat this or not, this is a one-off exclusive site finding course, masterclass, whatever you call it, which is going to create or help you find and create a system to create that pipeline of deals. And often, David, I'm not sure if you have come across, I speak to my peers, my property colleagues, and they say, find the right deals is always a challenge. And it has been for me as well, and, speaking to you last week, you've got a pipeline of 4 deals in 2021, which is very, very good by any standards, to be fair. And you've only been able to do this, I think, because of the consistency that you've shown since 2014, 2015, creating this system and then improving on it, year on year.
Yeah, that's it. It's been an enormous amount of work. It's not easy. I'll not tell anyone it's easy, but we will obviously explain the whole process, and there'll be a whole load of sort of templates and tools that I've developed over the years, which we'll share.
But to be fair, David, I know you say it's not easy. I don't think it's that difficult, because I'm not a system person personally. Although I've got an IT degree, and everybody laughs on that side of things. But I can say I can easily do this, because if the tools that you have, like Nimbus, DocMail, all the tools that we're going to be teaching them.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's not that difficult. Once you realize, you just have to do it a few times to see.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. I
Yeah.
had an intern last week. He's got zero experience. He's 17 years old. He's doing a college degree. He's never seen Nimbus before. I
Right.
sat down with him for 10 minutes and told him exactly what I want.
Yeah. Yeah.
The letters out. He found 8 properties near. I started off with where he lives because he knows the area a bit better.
Yeah.
He looked at it, sent letters, and I said to you, I've got a meeting next week. So how difficult can this be, right?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, probably not. When I say it's not easy, I think the importance is consistency and persistence, because you've been fantastically lucky to get a letter after, or a contact after 8 letters. I think you probably need to send out a lot more to get a very consistent pipeline building, and that does take an awful lot of persistence. But it's not rocket science.
No, absolutely. And you can get a VA. Like, I do a lot of this stuff through VA now, because all I did was a couple of Zoom calls with them, showed them what I was looking for, and they do it consistently for me on a week-to-week basis. And I understand from yours and my point of view as business owners, we've got too many balls to juggle.
Yeah.
This is another ball to juggle, and you've got to take time out of your day, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely doable. So guys, if you're looking to find out more information about our course, it's j6propertymeet.co.uk. And if you've got any questions, feel free to email me, manny@mannychopra.com, or David. David, would you please let us know your email address?
It's David, DAVID, at PNT, which is Papa November Tango, property, all one word. So David at pntproperty.co.uk.